How's it going, everybody? You know who it is. My name is Sun Woo, and we are live. Yes, we are. And as you may have already seen by other videos in your feed, it's release day of a new device, the Wunderkammer WoO.1. And you probably already see some similarities to a very famous instrument some of us love and some of us hate, and some others love to hate it, the OP-1. And I'm pretty sure this is no coincidence. So today I want to give you a short review of the Wunderkammer WoO.1. And first let me say this is a very difficult one, because this is the first review where I'm gonna say I don't recommend this device as is. But before we get into the criticism, I want to quickly talk about this YouTube game and reviewing in general. Obviously, YouTubers get sent these devices often to make a review about it. So there's always this struggle to, keep things real for your audience, but also not messing with the companies, being too harsh and basically destroying their business. So yeah, you never want to, let's say, take away someone else's ability to make their bread, so to speak, and destroy their business by being overly harsh about something. Because in the end, these are just musical instruments. However, on the other hand, once you build up a channel, I think you also have a responsibility to your audience, because, the larger your profile gets, the more people tend to trust you and your opinion on different gear, and therefore make their buying decisions and spending their money to buy gear and play with it. And since, many people are struggling with money, so am I. I don't want to give the wrong impressions about an instrument and make people waste their money on something that they regretted later. So that's why I want to be honest. So I want to say to the Wunderkammer people, if you are seeing this right now, I apologize. I'm sorry if these things may sound harsh, but I want to give an honest review, and hopefully you can take some of this feedback and improve the device and, make something more out of it. By the way, this is not going to be an in-depth tutorial and a how-to on all the functions and how to make it work. I've seen Floyd Steinberg already released a video on this, so if you want to get a step-by-step manual, check out his video. It's well made. And I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to basically point out most of the flaws here. So what is this device? This mainly is a sampler. It can record sounds and play them back, and a sequencer. It is called a looper, which I think is a little bit misleading, because I don't think it is recording audio loops, but instead you are recording MIDI sequences, and that is 2 bars at a time. So your maximum single sequence length is 2 bars, and these 2 bars then are called a groove, and you can record multiple grooves and then put them one after the other and chain them together in a song, but each single sequence cannot be longer than 2 bars. And by the way, if there's any wrong information, that can be. I didn't spend too much time with this, so I apologize in advance. If I find out I'm talking rubbish here, I will put that in the description and correct myself, and you can, of course, also feel free to correct me in the comments. But so this is a sampler and a simple sequencer where you can sequence 2-bar phrases, play them back, chain them together into a song, and you can also resample these 2-bar phrases. But in essence, that is it. So it's a very, very simple device. And for what it does, for being such a simple device, one main criticism already is that I find it overly complicated. So it doesn't do many things, but even the things it does are a little bit complicated to access. There are too many 2-button combos to access simple things. And also you don't get any visual feedback. So all you get is these buttons here lighting up, some of these lighting up, and these LEDs move when you record a sequence. But that's it. So no display, no visual feedback, while having to use a lot of 2-button combos for simple operation. If you compare this to the OP-1, and of course you got to compare it to the OP-1 because it's trying to, somewhat go after the OP-1 market. The OP-1 has this lovely screen which makes it really easy and fun for newbies to pick up the device and look at everything. And even if you don't know what's going on, it's just fun, making things move on screen and trying things out, and it invites you to explore. Whereas here, you gotta read the manual in order to do things. So not having a display, I think, is already quite a big letdown here, and just makes it less fun than the OP-1, for example. Of course, this will cost a lot less money than the OP-1. So the retail price of this, I think, is set to be $429 US. So it's not comparable to the OP-1 Field. However, it is comparable to the Teenage Engineering KO2, which I think cost around the same, or the Ableton Move. And I would never recommend buying this one over either of the others. And I think also the SP4 Mark II is in the same price range and also wipes the floor with this. So, but the interface is not the best, but that's not even my main gripe. However, let's stick a little bit longer with the interface. These keys here, again, is very similar to the OP-1. However, one thing that I immediately noticed here about this keyboard is, while they feel okay, these keys, what is nice about the OP-1's keys is that these are raised up and you can clearly feel when you are hitting a new key, and therefore it makes playing much easier when you're not looking and when you're not used to playing keys. Whereas here, they almost sit flush next to one another. Therefore, you never really know when you're on a new key, or maybe you're hitting 2 keys at once. So that's something they could still change before they do their final run of devices. That's something I would suggest. Yeah, other than that, no display, not enough visual feedback. Then compared to the OP-1, of course, this is just a sampler. This is a sampler and has synthesizer engines, so it can produce its own sounds, just like the Ableton Move also can produce its own sounds. But that wouldn't be a problem if it was just a sampler and the sequencer, if the sampling was done right. Because the KO2, for example, this is just a sampler and the sequencer, but this is doing a lot of things right, whereas here there just are obvious omissions. So the main problem with this device is that the only way you can sample new sounds is by using the built-in microphone. Yes, this sampler does not have a line input, which is something I can absolutely not understand why it was chosen this way. It just baffles me. Yeah, there's absolutely no justification for this, especially at this price point, because I mean, no price point would really justify it if there is something like the Teenage Engineering PO33, which costs, I think, $99, and it can sample from line in and from microphone. So not having a line in here means that you have to rely on the built-in microphone or transferring sounds via USB-C onto the device. So recording them on the computer, transferring them here, which means that you will have to organize samples and follow a certain naming convention, which takes up time and which kind of defeats the purpose of this being a quickly accessible portable device. So no line in, no audio over USB-C. If they can still implement audio over USB-C, that would be something I would highly recommend, but I don't know if the hardware is able to do this. And on top of that, not only can you only sample via the built-in microphone, even this sampling process isn't done very well. So I'll try to demonstrate. Sorry if I don't know all the button combinations.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna record something, and I'm gonna press record and then wait a second and then make my sound. Ooh. And another criticism, this volume is fully up, and I think the line out volume is pretty low, so I'm gonna turn up my sound here a little bit for you. And you can hear there's a click at the beginning of the recording. And that is because these buttons up here are so clicky, and as soon as I press record, the microphone starts recording and it records the sound of this click. So as of now, it is impossible to record something without the click. Yes, you can trim the sample and change the start point to avoid the click, but that means that you have to record, wait, and then play your sound into it so you can remove the click at the beginning and then have your sound. So obviously that is not good. You don't want to have any other sounds recorded from the device with your normal sample. What they need to do is implement threshold sampling, which every sampler should have from the get-go. I know the KO2 didn't have it from the beginning, but at least they implemented it afterwards. And this should have threshold sampling as well, because if you don't have threshold sampling, which by the way means that you can set up the recording and it won't start recording unless you play a sound that is loud enough to exceed that threshold. And you need that if you want to record an instrument like a guitar, for example, that needs you to play with two hands, so you don't have another hand free to press the record button. So threshold sampling is something that needs to be implemented, and obviously no one wants to hear the click of these buttons in their sample recording, which makes it even worse that you only have the microphone to record. Yes. So that may sound very harsh, which it is, but in the end, this will cost $429, and that is a substantial amount of money for something that could absolutely frustrate you if you didn't know what you are getting into. Okay, let me quickly check the chat. Hello, Michael, Colors and Space Recordings. I am sorry you miss your cat. Rest in peace. Manny B Gaming, hello. Sonic Vibe, Po Boy Fresh, hello, hello. Yes, so if you have any questions about the WoO.1, let me know. And no, I'm not affiliated with this. The name comes from something else, I guess. Yeah. And so this will be on Kickstarter soon, by the way, in case you didn't know. And I don't know the company really. I've written with them. They were friendly to me, but also I don't have any obligations. They said I can make a video if I want or not. And at first I thought I'm not going to make a video because I don't have many positive things to say about this. But then I thought, yeah, I think it's kind of my responsibility because people will see this and think OP-1. And because, OP-1 is such a want device, everybody wants an OP-1 because it's so stylish. I think many people could fall into the trap of just seeing the price and thinking, oh, this is a cheaper OP-1, I'm going to get that finally. And you would likely regret it. That being said, I highly encourage you again to watch Floyd Steinberg's video and check out what functionality this device has and assess it on your own. Is this something you think you would be paying $429 for or not? Are you wanting to support this or not? In addition, of course, I don't know what else they are thinking to add to this, so this is the current state it's in. Maybe they fix many things or implement other interesting things, which is also something Floyd mentioned in his video. However, even if they implement more things, I don't know how nice it would be because there are already 2-button combos all over the place and you don't have a display. So it's difficult to implement more things without making it even more complicated. So as it stands, it has very few things you can do. Record samples, sequence them in 2-bar loops, and chain these loops together. And you can also resample 2 bars at a time if you want. So it resamples the 2 bars perfectly for you. And you can apply a few filters and I think like a pitch down and up effect. But that's basically it. If I forgot something major, again, I will put it in the description. So this brings me back. It is difficult deciding what you do with a device like this in terms of reviewing, because I don't want them anything bad. I want them to succeed, but that also means letting them know if something isn't working, because if you just say, oh, this is good, they produce it as is and it probably won't sell very well. But now, since they haven't gone into mass production yet, they can still address many things and make changes and see what resonates with people and what doesn't. Maybe many comments under this video will say, oh, actually, I think you're wrong. This is a great device and I'm looking forward to it. And then it's okay. Then maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just not for me, but for other people. But maybe many people will agree with me and say there's a lot to be desired and things need to be changed before it goes in production. And then at least Wunderkammer has a chance to improve this and work on it and maybe make it a successful product. That's what I think at the moment. And it's difficult, it's scary to make a video or live stream like this because I'm sure no company likes to hear open criticism like this, and it can seem a little bit scary, but it is what it is. Yeah. Let me see. Poor Boy Fresh says, I feel like it could have much more potential if it could at least sample over USB even without a line in. Yes, exactly. I completely agree with you. USB audio would be something. Brock Chalker says, people always rip on OP-1's price, but anytime there's any sort of competitor, it just shows how much thought and effort went into the OP-1. 100% agree with you. Exactly. You can fault Teenage Engineering on many things, but the OP-1 is so well thought out, and it may not be for everyone, but the concept that it goes after, it has executed so well. And yeah, therefore it's just a pleasure to use. And much depends on the user experience with these devices. By the way, some other competitors that I can think easily trump this would be I haven't used it personally, but the Roland P6 sampler I think is much cheaper than this and probably wipes the floor with this as well. Yeah, the PO33. What other samplers do we have in that low price segment? Yeah, those two definitely are much cheaper and will probably give you more quality of instrument. Hello, Louis Etienne. Rocco says, let's hear some noise. I mean, I'm not gonna really make music with this. It doesn't make sense to me right now because it's a sampler, you can load samples, select samples. So you go to instrument and you can select your samples. There are different banks that you can access with the black and white buttons. That makes complete sense. I mean, that is simple enough. I don't think you can edit envelopes yet. I don't think you can reverse samples. I think all you can do is start an endpoint and apply a filter and then resample it if you want, and that's it. No call, no show. Yes, KO2 definitely beats it easily. I think they're in a similar price segment. So I was on about the cheaper ones just now. But yeah, the KO2 is a similar price and it's just way more capable. One more positive thing, I think the speaker is relatively loud. But even then, this turns into another criticism. I have a cable plugged in right now that gets the sound to you, but still the speaker is on. I think if I plug the cable in, I want the speaker to go off automatically or have the ability to turn it off. Maybe the ability is there and I haven't found it out yet. That can be, but yeah. So it is what it is. What else is there? Yeah, I mean, the build quality is okay. It's not the worst, but I also think for 429, it's nothing to write home about. The Ableton Move, for example, for a similar price feels like an absolute tank and yeah, just is absolute quality in terms of the build. Sonic Vibe asking who wins the P6 or EP133 battle. Since I haven't personally used the Roland P6, I cannot tell you that. Although by looking at them, I think for me it's the EP133 because of the workflow and how things are accessed. I think the P6 looks a little bit too fiddly for me. Yeah, I could be convinced otherwise. But then again, there's also a big price difference between the two, I think, at least. Nope, never played with the Soma Cosmos. Yeah, do you have any further questions about this one? Does any one of you have you watched the Floyd Steinberg video yet? Because of course that shows more what it can do rather than what it can't do. And does any one of you think they will actually get this, or think I'm wrong about this? No call, no show. What about KO1? Absolutely, KO1 also wins against this. I also don't know how many sounds you can store, but I assume it's, yeah, all these banks and then times the 14 white keys. And what I also want to say is, so this was quite a lot of criticism. I am fully aware how difficult it is to bring something like this to the market. There are so many things involved, and like making prototypes, selecting buttons, making it all fit, and yeah, it is a very hard job to bring a product to the market and make it all work as you intended. So props to everyone trying this, definitely. That being said, I wouldn't mind so much if the hardware, was a little bit janky and not fully working yet. But what I find a little bit alarming is that the idea behind it doesn't seem fleshed out yet. Like they have these prototypes already and are starting the Kickstarter campaign, yet I think the idea feels so half-baked. It just feels to me like people that haven't used enough samplers yet. Because everybody that sees a video immediately notices there's no line in. Why can't I sample from a line in? And how a company would choose to not put a line in there, they would have to have a real good reason, in my opinion, to not do so. Apart from, cutting a few cents for the input. So, yeah, the idea is it just seems like not enough thought has been put into this to see what does this do better than other devices and what does it bring new to the table. I fail to see what is different here, and that is not different but worse, but different and better. Again, if anyone thinks differently, let me know in the comments. I want to know. And again, it does feel harsh and I don't like doing this, but I think there need to be videos like these two out there to, yeah, to whatever. Yeah, so it needs a line input. It needs, I think, a better interface. It needs some features that set it apart from the competition, especially at this price point. Yes, it's portable. I like that. Yes, it has a built-in battery. I also like that. Yes, it has a sampler. I like that. It has a speaker. I also like those, but that's just not enough at this price. Yeah. The form factor, the size is okay, as you've seen before. It's a little bit smaller than the OP-1. I think the form factor is okay. For me, it doesn't need to be smaller than the OP-1 because I kind of like the size of the OP-1 because it sits nicely across your legs. It doesn't too easily fall in between, and it has a nice weight. This definitely is lighter and made from plastic. So in essence, this live stream was just for this review here, and I'm gonna, upload this as a video or just keep the live stream as is. I'm not gonna make any music today, and I was too lazy to edit a video, to be honest. So that's why I just did it as a live stream. And also because I think my voice will be more unfiltered, because a lot of times if you record yourself and then edit the video, you're going to second guess what you're saying and if this should be in the video, if it's too harsh or not. But I think this way I'm speaking more from the heart and yeah, let you know what I actually think. Again, people at Wunderkammer, I'm sorry. If you need any feedback, advice on how to improve it, I already given you some feedback, but you know, if there's more you need to know, always feel free to contact me. I'm happy to give advice. And that, yeah, again, going back to this not being thought out enough or made by people that haven't used enough samplers in their device, in their lives, I think contacting more people that are into this stuff would make a lot of sense. I know that sometimes, you know, too many cooks and so on, but I think if you are not a sampler junkie, an absolute sampler junkie, then you are going to make mistakes when you want to make your own sampler. So you really need to know samplers to make a good sampler that appeals to people that use samplers, to not miss anything obvious. Butterfingers asks how much the price is. Apparently $429. You can always watch the stream back, so this will be on my channel in the live tab. Maybe I will even make it as a normal video. Anyway, so I think I keep it here. This was my review of the Wunderkammer WoO.1. Check them out on Kickstarter. You can follow them and see if they make improvements, if they take action regarding this feedback, and if they make it into a solid device, or check if you like it as is. I don't know. But yeah, please check them out and give them a fair chance. You know, this is what I think about it. Other people may think differently. But with that being said, I appreciate all of you watching and I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope to see you in the next video, and don't forget to leave a like and maybe even comment after this stream, and have a good day. Peace.